The transport ship broke through Earth's atmosphere with enough force to shake the windows of every building within 5 miles. Commander Vorshin did not believe in subtle arrivals. His kind, the Draknir, were 7 feet tall with scales that gleamed like polished metal and eyes that could track movement faster than most species could blink. They were warriors, conquerors, and today Vorshin had come to end what the Galactic Council called an abomination. The Human Combat Academy sat on a hill overlooking a valley filled with green trees and strange Earth wildlife. To Vorshin it looked primitive and weak. The buildings were made of brick and wood, materials his people had stopped using 3,000 years ago. Smoke rose from chimneys even though the planet had electricity. These humans clung to their backward ways like children refusing to grow up. 12 soldiers filed out behind Vorshin, their armor black and intimidating, their weapons charged and ready. The mission was simple: shut down this academy that trained human children to be violent, arrest the administrators, show these Deathworlders that the galaxy had rules and those rules applied to everyone. A small human child sat on a bench near the landing pad. He looked about 12 years old in Earth measurements, skinny with brown hair that stuck up in odd directions. He wore simple clothes, a blue shirt and brown pants, and he was eating something round and red. Next to him, connected by a leather strap, was an animal Vorshin had never seen before. It was low to the ground, maybe 20 pounds, with gray and white fur and a face that looked permanently angry. Vorshin approached with his soldiers flanking him. The child looked up slowly, still chewing his fruit. "Where is your headmaster?" Vorshin demanded. His voice came out as a growl that made most species tremble. The boy swallowed. "Dr. Wells is teaching a class. She will be done in about 30 minutes. We do not wait." Vorshin took another step forward. "This facility is being shut down by order of the Galactic Council. You will take us to her now, or we will find her ourselves." The child tilted his head. "You should probably wait. If you go in there making threats, things might get messy." Several of Vorshin's soldiers laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. A human child giving them advice. The absurdity of it, and who will stop us, you? Vorshin's jaw opened slightly, showing rows of sharp teeth. It was a threat display that worked on 90% of species. "Not me," the boy said calmly. He pointed at the animal beside him. "Brutus will handle you." Vorshin looked down at the small creature. It was staring back at him with black eyes that showed no fear whatsoever. For a moment, something primal whispered in the back of Vorshin's mind. A warning, but he pushed it away. This was a tiny Earth animal, probably some kind of pet. Nothing to worry about. "Your pet does not frighten me, human child. His name is Danny," the boy said, "and Brutus is not really a pet. He is more like a partner. Move aside, Danny." Vorshin walked past the bench, his soldiers following. Behind them, Danny took another bite of his apple and scratched Brutus behind the ears. "I warned you," Danny said quietly. The academy's front doors were large and wooden with metal handles. Vorshin grabbed one and pulled it open. The hallway inside was decorated with pictures of human children standing next to various Earth animals. There were drawings and paintings covering the walls. Everything looked peaceful and soft. "Weak. Spread out," Vorshin ordered. "Find the headmaster. Use force if anyone resists." His soldiers moved down the hallway, their boots heavy on the wooden floor. Vorshin stayed near the entrance, looking at a large painting of a human woman surrounded by young students and strange creatures. The plaque beneath it read, "Dr. Patricia Wells, founder and headmaster." Something moved behind him. Vorshin turned just as a gray and white blur shot through the open door. Brutus the honey badger had somehow freed himself from the leash and was now inside the building. Vorshin almost laughed. The creature was so small, so insignificant. But then Brutus made a sound. It was not a bark or a meow like the pets Vorshin had seen on other worlds. It was something between a growl and a battle cry, raw and aggressive and absolutely fearless. The honey badger launched himself at the nearest Draknir soldier. He hit the warrior's leg and immediately began climbing, claws digging through armor that was supposed to withstand plasma fire. The soldier screamed and tried to shake the animal off. Brutus reached the waist and bit down hard. His jaws locked onto the flexible joint section of the armor, and no amount of hitting or pulling could make him let go. 2 more soldiers rushed over to help. Brutus released the first warrior and jumped to the second one, going straight for the throat. The Draknir stumbled backward, panic in his eyes. His companion fired a stun weapon at point-blank range. The blue energy hit Brutus directly in the side. The honey badger did not stop. He did not even slow down. He took the blast like it was nothing and continued his attack with the same furious energy. Chaos erupted in the hallway. Soldiers were shouting, weapons were firing, and through it all, one 20-pound earth creature was dismantling an entire military unit. Brutus moved like liquid violence, too fast to target properly, too aggressive to defend against, and apparently too stubborn to understand the concept of giving up. Vorschen watched in horror as his elite warriors, beings who had fought in actual wars, were beaten back by something that barely reached their knees. One soldier was on the ground holding his bleeding arm. Another had retreated into a corner, his weapon forgotten. A third was running back toward the exit, all dignity abandoned. Outside, Danny finished his apple and stood up slowly. He walked to the doorway and looked inside at the scene of destruction. Vorschen met his eyes. The boy's expression was not smug or angry. It was simply matter-of-fact, like someone who had predicted rain and been proven right. "I told you," Danny said. "Brutus handles things." Vorschen had fought in 17 battles across 9 different systems. He had faced enemy ships with weapons that could tear through mountains. He had led troops against species that breathed fire, and others that could turn invisible. Never once had he ordered a retreat from something he could hold in one hand. Today was different. "Fall back to the ship." His voice cracked as he shouted the command. Around him, his soldiers needed no encouragement. They were already running, some limping, most bleeding from bite wounds that their supposedly impenetrable armor had failed to stop. Brutus stood in the middle of the hallway, blood on his muzzle, absolutely zero signs of fatigue. The honey badger looked ready to go another 10 rounds. When the last Draknir soldier stumbled out the door, the animal simply sat down and began cleaning his paws like nothing had happened. Danny walked past Vorschen without fear. He picked up the leather leash that was still attached to Brutus's harness. "Come on, buddy. Let's get you some water." The honey badger followed Danny peacefully, trotting along like a normal pet. As they walked away, Brutus glanced back at Vorschen one time. The look in those black eyes was clear. "You are not worth my time anymore." Vorschen's pride burned. He wanted to order his ship to fire on the building. He wanted to call for reinforcements. He wanted to do anything except admit that he had been defeated by a creature that weighed less than his boots. But his soldiers were hurt, and he was not stupid enough to make the same mistake twice. The medical bay on his ship was full within the hour. Dr. Hilrex, a 3-armed Krellin with extensive experience in battlefield medicine, moved between injured soldiers with growing confusion on her face. "Commander, these wounds are strange," she said, holding up a scanner over a soldier's arm. "The bites went through armor that is rated to stop projectile weapons. The jaw strength required for that is enormous." "How enormous?" Vorschen asked. "Comparable to a Rendax battlehound, maybe stronger. And look at this." She pointed to another soldier who was lying face down on a medical bed, claw marks across the back. "The spacing suggests an animal no larger than this." She held her hands about 2 feet apart, but the depth of the cuts indicates serious muscle power. Vorschen pulled up his personal data pad and began searching Earth's biological records. The Galactic Council maintained files on every known species from every member world. Surely this creature would be listed. He found it under the name honey badger. Latin name Mellivora capensis. Native to Africa, Middle East, and parts of Asia. Weight between 20 and 30 pounds. Diet consists of small mammals, birds, insects, and apparently anything else it feels like eating. Then Vorschen reached the behavioral notes, and his scales went cold. Known for aggressive defense response. Extremely tough skin that resists bites, stings, and cuts. Has been observed fighting lions, hyenas, and other predators many times its size. Fearless to the point of apparent stupidity. Will not retreat even when severely injured. Possesses strong jaws capable of cracking turtle shells. Immune or highly resistant to many venoms. Considered one of the most fearless animals on Earth. There was a video file attached. Vorschen played it. The footage showed a honey badger attacking a group of 6 lions. Not running away, attacking. The lions eventually gave up and left. The honey badger went back to eating its meal. Another video showed one raiding a beehive, getting stung hundreds of times and continuing to eat honey like nothing was wrong. Another showed one breaking into a concrete enclosure by digging under the wall, climbing a tree and squeezing through a gap no larger than a fist. They keep these as companions? Hilrex had come up behind Vorschen and was reading over his shoulder. "Humans domesticated these?" "Apparently. Forshin scrolled through more files. He found information about dogs, creatures descended from wolves that could track scents across miles and had bite forces that could break bones. He found cats, miniature versions of Earth's great predators that humans allowed to live in their homes. He found birds called parrots that could mimic speech and had beaks strong enough to crack nuts. Everything on this planet seemed designed to survive, and humans had somehow convinced these creatures to live alongside them. Sir, message from the Galactic Council. A communications officer appeared on the screen mounted to the wall. They want your status report. Forshin looked at his injured soldiers. He looked at the data about Earth's fauna. He made a decision that would either end his career or change everything the galaxy knew about humans. Tell them I need more time to assess the situation. They said the mission was supposed to be simple, sir. Did you encounter resistance? Yes, Forshin said slowly. Significant resistance. Should we send backup? How many human soldiers are defending the facility? Forshin thought about Danny sitting on that bench. Thought about Brutus cleaning his paws. Thought about a 12-year-old child who had tried to warn him and been completely ignored. It was not human soldiers, Forshin said. It was one of their animals. The communications officer blinked in confusion. Sir, did you say an animal? A honey badger. 20 pounds. Send me everything the Council has on Earth biology. Not just the intelligent species, everything. Every creature that lives on that planet. I need to understand what we are dealing with. Understood, sir. Is the Academy still operational? Forshin looked out the viewport at the brick buildings below. Smoke still rose from the chimneys. Children were playing in the yard now, visible as small figures running around. Several of them had animals with them. He saw large dogs, something that might be a wild pig and what looked like a very large bird. Yes, he said quietly. The Academy is very much operational. After the communication ended, Hilrex approached him again. What are you thinking, Commander? I am thinking, Forshin said, that we tried to threaten a species that evolved alongside creatures like that honey badger. A species that did not destroy those creatures but learned to live with them, to bond with them, to earn their loyalty. And that means what? Forshin watched Danny in the yard below. The boy was throwing a ball, and Brutus was chasing it with the same intensity he had used to attack trained soldiers. It means, Forshin said, that we have seriously underestimated what it takes to survive on a death world. 3 days passed before Forshin allowed himself to leave the ship again. 3 days of reading files, watching videos, and slowly realizing how little the galaxy actually knew about Earth. The Galactic Council had classified humans as a Class 4 intelligence, meaning they were smart enough to join the galactic community, but not particularly special. Their technology was average. Their ships were functional but not impressive. Their weapons were adequate. Nobody had bothered to ask about their pets. Forshin's data pad now contained files on over 5,000 Earth species that humans had domesticated, trained, or simply chosen to live alongside. The variety was staggering. There were horses that could kick hard enough to shatter bones, pigs that were smarter than some species the Council considered fully sentient, snakes that humans kept in glass boxes, spiders that humans named and fed, eagles that could see prey from 2 miles away and dive at speeds that would kill most creatures on impact. One file in particular had kept Forshin awake for hours. It was about a human practice called falconry, where they trained wild birds of prey to hunt for them. The relationship required trust, patience, and respect. The birds were not slaves. They chose to return to their human partners after each hunt. They could fly away at any time. They stayed because the partnership benefited both sides. That concept was alien to Draknir culture. Forshin's people believed in dominance. You were either stronger or weaker, predator or prey, master or servant. The idea that a powerful creature would voluntarily work with you, not because it feared you, but because it respected you, was hard to accept. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Dresk, found him in his quarters. Sir, the Council is getting impatient. They want to know why we have not completed the mission. What have you told them? That we encountered unexpected difficulties. They are threatening to send an oversight team. Forshin looked at his reflection in the dark viewport. His scales, usually vibrant green, looked dull. Defeat did that to his species. Physical manifestation of shame. Let them send the oversight team, Forshin said. Maybe they will have better luck than we did. Or maybe, Drask said carefully, we could try a different approach. What approach? The human child, Danny, he tried to warn you. That suggests he can communicate. Perhaps we should talk instead of threaten. Forshin's first instinct was to refuse. Draknir commanders did not negotiate with children. But then again, Draknir commanders did not usually get beaten by house pets either. Maybe it was time to abandon what he thought he knew. Contact the academy. Request a meeting with Danny and his headmaster. Make it clear we are coming unarmed. Drask's eyes widened. Unarmed, sir? If they wanted us dead, that animal could have killed us. It had the opportunity. Instead, it just drove us away. That shows restraint. Intelligence. Let us show the same. 2 hours later, Vorshin walked back through the academy's front doors. This time, no soldiers followed him. No weapons hung from his belt. He wore simple clothing without armor. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous and foolish. He did it anyway. Dr. Patricia Wells waited in what she called the common room. She was a human woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to measure him instantly. Danny sat next to her and Brutus lay at the boy's feet. The honey badger watched Vorshin with the same intense focus a sniper might use before taking a shot. Commander Vorshin, Dr. Wells said. Her voice was calm but firm. I understand you wanted to speak with us. Vorshin had prepared a speech. Formal words about misunderstandings and diplomatic relations. All of it vanished when he actually stood in front of them. Why did you stop him? Vorshin pointed at Brutus. Your animal could have killed my soldiers. Why did you call him off? Danny looked surprised by the question. Because you were running away. Brutus protects me. Once the threat is gone, there is no reason to keep fighting. Most creatures would chase fleeing enemies. Finish them. Brutus is not most creatures, Dr. Wells said. Honey badgers are fierce, yes. But they are not mindless killers. They fight when threatened. They stop when the threat ends. That is survival instinct, not cruelty. Vorshin sat down slowly on a chair that was slightly too small for his frame. The Galactic Council sent me to shut down this academy. They believe you are training human children to be warriors, making them violent. And what do you believe now? Dr. Wells asked. I believe, Vorshin said carefully, that I do not understand what is happening here at all. Danny smiled at that. It was not a mocking smile. It seemed almost encouraging. Want me to explain? Please. The boy reached down and scratched Brutus behind the ears. The honey badger made a sound that was almost a purr. Earth is hard. Really hard. We have animals that can kill you with venom, teeth, claws, or just by being big enough to step on you. We have weather that can freeze you or burn you. We have diseases that you cannot even see. I have read about your planet's classification as a death world. Right. So humans had two choices. We could try to kill everything that was dangerous, or we could learn to live with it, to respect it, to understand it. Danny's hand kept moving through Brutus's fur. My partner here? His species has been around for millions of years. They survived because they are tough and smart and they do not give up. Ever. Humans saw that and thought, what if we could be friends instead of enemies? But how? Vorshin leaned forward. How do you make something that fierce choose to protect you? You earn it, Dr. Wells said. Not through force. Through respect. Through showing them that you are worth protecting. Danny has raised Brutus since he was a kid. Fed him, played with him, understood what he needed. In return, Brutus protects Danny because he wants to, not because he has to. The council thinks we are teaching violence here, Danny added. But really, we are teaching partnership. Every student here learns about their animal companion. Where it came from. What it needs. How it thinks. We learn to survive together. Vorshin thought about his own military training. Years of learning to dominate. To conquer. To show strength through force. None of it had prepared him for a species that showed strength through cooperation. What would happen, Vorshin asked slowly, if I tried to threaten Danny right now? Brutus raised his head. His eyes locked onto Vorshin. The message was very clear. Yeah, Danny said. You would have a bad day. Despite everything, Vorshin laughed. It was a rough sound but genuine. I believe you. Dr. Wells invited Vorshin to tour the academy. He accepted, partly out of curiosity and partly because refusing seemed like a good way to upset Brutus again. As they walked through the halls, Vorshin began to see things his first visit had missed. The walls were covered with charts about animal behavior, not how to use them as weapons but how to understand them. One poster explained dog body language. Another showed the proper way to approach a horse. A third listed foods that were dangerous for different species. This was not a military training facility. It was a school about coexistence. They entered a large room that Dr. Wells called the Integration Center. Inside, about 30 human children sat in a circle. Each one had an animal companion. Vorshen saw dogs of various sizes, several cats, a large bird perched on one girl's shoulder, and something that looked like a small bear but was apparently called a raccoon. A teacher stood in the middle. Remember, everyone, your companion is not a tool. They are a partner. Respect their needs, understand their limits. Never ask them to do something that would harm them. One boy raised his hand. He had a large gray dog sitting beside him. What if someone threatens us? Is it wrong to let Bruno protect me? Protection is natural, the teacher said. If Bruno senses you are in danger, he will react. That is instinct. But you should never encourage aggression. Your job is to keep both of you safe, not to look for fights. The lesson continued, and Vorshen watched in silence. These children were not being trained to attack. They were being taught responsibility. Every student here understood that their animal companion depended on them, and they depended on their companion. It was a partnership built on mutual need and trust. Danny led them to another room. This one was filled with equipment, climbing structures, running paths, puzzle boxes, and water features. This is where we exercise and train, he explained. Different animals need different things. Brutus needs to dig and climb. Some of the dogs need to run. The birds need to fly. A girl about 14 years old was working with a massive bird. It had long legs, a powerful beak, and feathers that looked almost prehistoric. The bird stood nearly as tall as the girl. What is that? Vorshen asked. Cassowary, Dr. Wells said. Native to Australia, one of the most dangerous birds on Earth. Those claws can cut through flesh like a blade. Vorshen watched the girl feed the bird pieces of fruit. The cassowary took each piece gently, despite having the physical ability to seriously injure her. Why would anyone keep such a creature? Because Sophie understands him, Danny said. She knows when he needs space. She reads his body language. She respects his power. In return, Roger trusts her. Roger? The bird's name. He has been with Sophie for 3 years now. They continued the tour. Vorshen met a boy with a wild boar named Daisy, a girl with an African-crested porcupine called Spike, twin brothers who had trained a pair of ravens. Each student could explain their companion's needs, behaviors, and capabilities. Each one spoke about their animal with obvious affection and respect. In a specialized room with temperature controls, Vorshen encountered something that made him step back instinctively. A large tank on wheels contained an octopus. Its 8 arms moved through the water with liquid grace, and its eyes followed Vorshen with clear intelligence. This is Ripley, said a small girl who stood next to the tank. She could not have been more than 10 years old. She is a giant Pacific octopus. That creature is your companion? Yes. She is really smart. She can solve puzzles and remember faces. Watch this. The girl held up 3 boxes. Which one, Ripley? The octopus extended an arm out of the water, opened a lid at the top of the tank, and pointed to the middle box. The girl opened it and revealed a piece of fish. Correct. Vorshen had read about Earth's octopi. They were considered among the most intelligent invertebrates in known space. Some scientists believed they were smarter than many species the Council recognized as sentient. Watching one interact with a human child was disturbing and fascinating in equal measure. How many students attend this academy? Vorshen asked Dr. Wells. 312 currently, ages 8 to 16. Every single one has bonded with an animal from Earth's more challenging environments. And you believe this makes them better people? I believe it teaches them things they cannot learn any other way. Patience, responsibility, respect for power that is not their own. These children will grow up understanding that strength comes in many forms. That intelligence is not limited to species that speak words. That survival sometimes means cooperation instead of domination. They returned to the common room. Vorshen's mind was processing everything he had seen. The Galactic Council had sent him to stop humans from training warriors, but what he found was something entirely different, something that challenged every assumption he had about how species should interact. "Commander," Danny said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Your people, the Draknir. Do you have pets?" Vorshin thought about his homeworld. "We have animals. We use them for food, transportation, labor, but we do not keep them as companions. That would be considered weakness, attachment to a lesser being." "Brutus is not lesser," Danny said quietly. "He is just different. Different kind of smart. Different kind of strong." The honey badger was sleeping now, curled up at Danny's feet. He looked almost peaceful, almost harmless. But Vorshin had seen what that small body could do when protecting its human, had felt the fear of watching his soldiers retreat from something they could have crushed with their bare hands if it would just stop moving for 1 second. "Your council wants to close this academy," Vorshin said to Dr. Wells. "They believe you are creating something dangerous." "And what do you believe?" Vorshin looked around the room, at the pictures of students and animals, at Danny and his sleeping partner, at a human society that had survived a death world not by conquering it, but by finding allies in the most unexpected places. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the Council needs to see this for themselves. Because if they send soldiers to shut you down by force, those soldiers will face 300 children, with 300 companions who will fight to protect them. We do not want war," Dr. Wells said. "I know, but you would survive it. That is what concerns me." Danny smiled. "We learned from the best." He pointed down at Brutus. "Never give up, never back down. Protect what matters." Vorshin understood then what made humans so dangerous. Not their technology, not their weapons, but their ability to inspire loyalty in creatures that had no reason to give it. Their talent for turning the deadliest animals on their planet into family. "I need to contact the Council," Vorshin said. "This mission is not what I thought it was." The Galactic Council did not take Vorshin's report well. He stood in the communication room of his ship, facing holographic projections of 5 council members representing the major powers in the galaxy. Their expressions ranged from confused to angry. Councillor Tresh, a floating being made mostly of energy fields, spoke first. "Let me understand this correctly, Commander. You are requesting that we leave the Human Academy alone because you were defeated by a pet?" "Not a pet," Vorshin said firmly. "A partner animal. And yes, that is part of my recommendation. But there is more to it than that." Councillor Breen, who looked like an upright walking beetle with far too many eyes, made a clicking sound of disapproval. "You had 12 trained soldiers. The humans had children and animals. This is embarrassing." "It should be concerning," Vorshin corrected. "These are not normal animals. Earth is classified as a death world, but nobody stopped to ask what that means for the species that evolved there. Everything on that planet is built to survive conditions that would kill most of us, and humans have learned to bond with these creatures." "Impossible," said Councillor Ivara, a tall being covered in pale blue fur. "Bonding requires emotional intelligence. These are just animals." Vorshin pulled up a video file he had recorded at the academy. It showed Danny and Brutus during training. The boy gave a hand signal, and the honey badger immediately stopped what he was doing and came to Danny's side. Not because he was afraid, not because he was forced, but because he chose to. "Watch this." Vorshin played another clip. It showed Sophie with her cassowary, the dangerous bird that could disembowel a person, was gently taking food from her hand, then nuzzling against her arm like an affectionate pet. That bird weighs over 100 pounds and has killed adult humans before. But with this girl it shows complete trust. "So they have tamed dangerous animals," Councillor Tresh said. "That still does not explain why we should allow this academy to continue." "Because," Vorshin said, "if we try to shut it down, we will be starting a conflict we cannot win. Not without causing serious casualties on both sides. These children will not surrender peacefully. Their animals will protect them. And I have learned enough about Earth fauna to know that 300 bonded animal companions fighting on their home territory would be a massacre." Councillor Breen laughed. "You are saying that human children pose a military threat to the Galactic Council? I am saying that underestimating them would be a fatal mistake." "This is ridiculous," Breen continued. We will send a proper military force, 100 soldiers with heavy weapons. We will see how well these animals stand up to plasma cannons. Then you will have dead children on your hands, Vorschen said bluntly. Is that what the council wants? Because I promise you, those animals will not stop protecting their humans just because the weapons are bigger. You will have to kill every single one of them, and probably some of the children too. All because the council is too proud to admit that maybe, just maybe, humans understand something about survival that we do not. Silence fell over the communication. Even Breen stopped laughing. Counselor Ivara spoke quietly. What are you suggesting, Commander? I am suggesting that we reclassify Earth appropriately. Not as a standard death world, but as an apex cooperation planet. Somewhere that survival required species to work together instead of simply dominating each other. And I suggest we leave this academy alone. It is not a threat. It is a school. But if you turn it into a threat by attacking it, you will prove to the entire galaxy that the Council makes enemies out of people who just want to live in peace. You have gone soft, Breen said. A human child pet you on the head and now you think they are special. No, Vorschen replied. A human child warned me about his companion, and I ignored that warning because I thought I knew better. I was wrong. The humans are not special because they are stronger than us. They are special because they have spent 10,000 years learning to respect strength in other species. That makes them dangerous in ways we never prepared for. Counselor Tresh dimmed slightly, a sign of deep thought. Send us your full report. All video files. All biological data. We will review it and make a decision. How long will that take? 3 days. Until then, maintain your position but take no action against the Academy. The communication ended. Vorschen sat down heavily in his command chair. Lieutenant Drask approached with 2 drinks. He handed one to Vorschen. Do you think they will listen? Drask asked. I think they will do what politicians always do. They will argue, delay, and eventually make the decision that causes the least embarrassment. Vorschen took a drink. It was bitter and strong, exactly what he needed. The question is whether they decide that quickly enough. Sir, incoming transmission. From the Academy. Put it through. Danny's face appeared on the screen. He was in what looked like his room. Posters of Earth animals covered the walls behind him. Brutus was visible on the bed, chewing on what appeared to be a rubber toy. Commander Vorschen, Danny said. I hope I am not disturbing you. Not at all. What can I do for you, Danny? I just wanted to say thank you. Dr. Wells told me that you spoke to the Council. That you defended us. I told them the truth. Whether they listen is not up to me. Danny nodded. I know, but still. You could have just sent more soldiers. You could have tried to destroy us from orbit. You did not. That means something. Your companion taught me a valuable lesson about underestimating others. Brutus has that effect on people. Danny scratched the honey badger's ears. Can I show you something? Of course, Danny held up his datapad. On it was a file with Vorschen's species information. I have been reading about the Draknir. Your people are warriors. You value strength and honor. You have won battles against enemies that had better technology because you refused to give up. That is correct. That sounds a lot like honey badgers, Danny said with a smile. Smaller than most threats. Not the strongest. But they never quit. They never backed down. They survived through pure determination. Vorschen stared at the screen. He had never made that connection before. His people prided themselves on being nothing like Earth's primitive species. But Danny was right. The core of what made Draknir survivors was the same thing that made honey badgers survivors. Absolute refusal to accept defeat, your point? Vorschen asked. My point is that maybe we are not so different. Maybe that is why Brutus and I work so well together, and maybe that is why you understand now what we are doing here. Danny's expression became serious. We do not want to be your enemy, Commander, but we will protect our home, just like you would protect yours. I know, Danny, I will do everything I can to make the Council see reason. Thank you, and if you ever want to visit again, Brutus says he promises not to attack you. Danny grinned. As long as you do not threaten me, obviously. Obviously, Vorschen said, returning the smile. I will keep that in mind. The transmission ended. Drask looked at his commander. A human child just compared you to his animal companion. I know. And you took it as a compliment? I did. Drask shook his head. The Council is going to love this. The Council chambers on Station Unity were designed to intimidate. Massive pillars reached toward a ceiling so high, it disappeared into artificial clouds. The floor was polished stone that reflected light like a mirror. Representatives from 200 species sat in ascending rows, all watching the central platform where Vorshin stood. He had presented his report, shown the videos, explained the biology. Now came the questions, and they were not friendly. "This is absurd," shouted Representative Quilvar, whose species had been part of the Council for 3,000 years. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not negotiate with primitives who play with animals." "They are not primitives," Vorshin replied calmly. "Their technology is adequate. Their science is sound. They simply approach survival differently than we do. By keeping dangerous creatures as pets, by forming partnerships with other species, something that apparently never occurred to the rest of us." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some representatives looked thoughtful, others looked angry. Counselor Tresh floated down to the main floor, energy fields pulsing with various colors. "The question before us is simple," Tresh said. "Do we allow humans to continue training their young in this way, or do we shut down the academy as originally planned?" "And if they refuse to shut down?" asked another representative. "Then we use force," Quilver said, "as we would with any species that defies council authority." Vorshin stepped forward. "If you use force, you will kill children. Human children whose only crime is learning to survive on a planet that tried to kill their ancestors for millions of years. Is that who we are? Is that what the council has become?" "They could be a threat," someone shouted from the upper rows. "They are a threat," Vorshin corrected, "but only if we make them one. Right now, they are a school. Children learning to respect life in all its forms. But if you attack them, you will create exactly what you fear. You will turn 300 students into 300 fighters who know that the galaxy sees them as enemies." Counselor Ivara stood. Her blue fur rippled with tension. "I have reviewed the biological data. Everything Commander Vorshin said is accurate. Earth species are remarkably resilient. The honey badger alone has physical capabilities that exceed its size by orders of magnitude, and that is one of the smaller animals humans work with." She pulled up an image on the main display. It showed a human child standing next to a massive animal with brown fur and enormous teeth. "This is a brown bear, weight up to 800 pounds, bite force that can crush a bowling ball, claws that can tear through wood, and there are records of humans keeping them as companions. Not always successfully, but the fact that they try tells us something about their psychology." "That they are insane?" Quilvar suggested. "That they are adaptable," Ivara replied. "Every species here achieved dominance through specific traits. The Draknir through strength, my people through speed, the Quellan through intelligence. Humans achieved dominance through flexibility. They can eat almost anything, survive in nearly any climate, and apparently form bonds with creatures that should be their natural enemies." The debate continued for hours. Vorshin stood silent, letting the council argue itself in circles. He knew how this would end. Politicians were predictable. They would look for the solution that saved face while avoiding conflict. Finally, Counselor Tresh called for order. "We will vote. All in favor of shutting down the Human Combat Academy by force indicate now." Lights appeared throughout the chamber. Vorshin counted them. 47 votes in favor. All opposed? More lights. 73 opposed. All abstaining. The remaining representatives chose to stay neutral. The decision was made. The academy would continue. Quilvar stood angrily. "This is a mistake. We are showing weakness." "No," Tresh said. "We are showing wisdom. The academy poses no immediate threat. Let us monitor it. Learn from it. Perhaps humans can teach us something about cooperation that we have forgotten." The session ended. Vorshin returned to his ship and immediately opened a communication channel to Earth. Dr. Wells answered, with Danny visible behind her. Brutus was perched on the boy's shoulder, which looked uncomfortable, but the honey badger seemed content. "The council has voted," Vorshin said. "The academy will remain open." Dr. Wells closed her eyes in relief. "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me yet. They will be watching. Any sign that you are training soldiers instead of students, and they will revisit this decision. We have nothing to hide, Danny said. You can visit any time, bring inspectors, bring cameras. We are just teaching kids to work with animals. I believe you, but not everyone does. Be careful. 3 months later, Vorshin returned to Earth. This time it was a social visit. He brought no soldiers, no weapons, and a selection of food from his homeworld that he thought Brutus might enjoy. Danny met him at the landing pad. The boy had grown a bit taller. Brutus looked the same, which made sense because honey badgers apparently stopped caring about physical changes once they reached maximum ferocity. Welcome back, Commander, Danny said. I brought gifts. Vorshin held up a container. Dried meat from Draknir, very tough. I thought your companion might like the challenge. Danny opened the container and gave a piece to Brutus. The honey badger sniffed it, bit down, and made a satisfied sound. He approves. They walked through the academy together. Students waved at Vorshin. Several asked to show him their animal companions. He met a boy with a raven that could speak in multiple languages. A girl with a python that was longer than Vorshin was tall. Twin sisters who had trained a pair of wolves to perform complex tasks in perfect coordination. In the integration center, Dr. Wells was teaching a new class. Remember, she told the students, your companion trusts you. That trust is a gift. Never abuse it. Never take it for granted. The bond between human and animal is built on respect, and respect must be earned every single day. Vorshin watched the lesson. He thought about his own people and their approach to other species. Domination. Control. Fear. It had worked for thousands of years, but watching these human children, he wondered if there was a better way. What are you thinking? Danny asked. I am thinking, Vorshin said, that maybe the galaxy has something to learn from Earth after all. Like what? That strength is not just about power. It is about knowing when to fight and when to make friends. Your people figured that out a long time ago. The rest of us are still learning. Danny smiled and scratched Brutus behind the ears. Well, you are welcome to visit and learn anytime, right, buddy? The honey badger looked at Vorshin. The expression was still intense, still watchful, but something had changed. Not friendship exactly. More like acceptance. You are not a threat. You are allowed here. For a Draknir commander who had won battles across the galaxy, earning the approval of a 20-pound Earth animal should not have mattered. But somehow it did. Vorshin knelt down and slowly extended his hand. Brutus sniffed. It considered for a long moment, then allowed Vorshin to briefly touch his head. The fur was coarse and thick. The honey badger tolerated exactly 3 seconds of contact before walking away with dignity intact. He likes you, Danny said. How can you tell? He did not bite you. That is basically love for Brutus. Vorshin laughed. It was a sound he had not made much in his life. Warriors did not laugh. But then again, warriors did not usually make friends with humans and their impossible animals either. The galaxy was changing. Not through war or conquest, but through understanding. And somehow, a 12-year-old boy with a honey badger had taught an entire council that being strong meant knowing when to fight and when to learn. As Vorshin prepared to leave that evening, Danny gave him a gift. It was a small patch with the Academy's logo, a human hand and an animal paw pressed together. For your uniform, Danny said, so people know you are a friend of the Academy. Vorshin attached it immediately right over his heart where his military decorations usually went. He wore it with more pride than any medal he had earned in battle. Because some victories he had learned were won not by defeating your enemies, but by choosing not to make enemies in the first place.